Shalom. I recently acquired the latest two volumes in the series Pnei Halakha by Rabbi Eliezer Melammed from Ha Bracha. Very popular uh, new codification of Jewish law, which has come out over the past 5 or 10 years. And what this latest two volumes are on belief. He calls it emunah o mitzvoteha, belief and the commandments connected with it. This, as far as I know, is the first codification of Jewish belief as part of a comprehensive encyclopedia or work covering all aspects of Jewish law, ritual law, ethics, family law, and so on. Since the time of Maimonides, the first of the 14 books of Maimonides' Mishnah Torah, Sefer Hamadah, the Book of Knowledge, is really a book devoted to what we would call, beliefs or fundamental principles. And so I thought it'd be interesting to have a look at what Rabbi Melammed has to say, and from time to time share with you some thoughts as a sort of informal book review. So today I would just like to give first impressions from my reading of the first few pages on 3 points. The first is that the book opens with this statement, which I will read in Hebrew and then translate. Emunah hi tchuna tiv'it shekayemet b'chol adam asher neshama ba'apo. Belief, emunah, is a natural disposition that is found in every human who has a soul, who's alive. This, I found, was very impressive. It comes from Rav Kook, but what I really liked about it is the way he started his book with this. This is an axiology and a systematic presentation that is meant to be coherent and have some logical connection between the various things that are developed. One must first start with an axiom, which is a fundamental a principle which one cannot really prove, partly because you have to prove something on the basis of other things, and this is your first statement, so it has to be unproven in a certain way. And if you move up your most important principles to the level of axioms, they're also sort of insured in that you're basically saying that this is something that cannot be proven, but it's fundamental to my outlook. And I like this very much because what we lack in many discussions of so-called belief is some sort of systematic presentation, starting from first principles and going on to develop the various propositions and statements that we hold to be true and form part of our system. Now, this comes from Rav Kook, and as I said, this is a well-known thing in philosophy. Many of you are probably familiar with Descartes' famous cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am, where he wanted to see if he could start from absolutely nothing, a human being who has not learned anything, his senses have not detected anything, and how does he start to understand what it's all about? So the first thing that comes to mind, the first thing that the person will know is their own existence. And I know that because as I am thinking about all these things, who am I, what am I must exist, otherwise who would be thinking these things? So he built his whole system, or at least tried to, on this basic axiom of cogito ergo sum. In fact, there is a thought experiment carried out by Ibn Sina some 500 years before Descartes, which basically comes to the same idea. Now, it's also interesting that Rabbi Joseph B. Soloveitchik, who, unlike almost any of the people, the leading or even second and third tier Jewish theologians of our day, had rigorous philosophical training in a German university. He at one point said that in Judaism we substitute for Descartes' cogito ergo sum, we substitute credo ergo sum. I believe, therefore I am. So this is actually not far from what Rav Kook says. The problem that we'll have to see as we go through this book is that in the everyday talk of Jewish thinkers, pulpit rabbis, YouTube rabbis, and would-be theologians, this Hebrew word emunah takes on a huge amount of things, a huge amount of baggage in its train. Because, as I've been trying to say, emunah, which is basically the quality that allows us to put, or forces us to put our faith in something, is a quality of the human soul, of the human mind, of the human entity. But the content of the belief is not. The content has to be acquired, and that's very different. And unfortunately, in many of the things that one comes across in writings on the topic, emunah includes a whole long list of statements that are questionable at best, and shouldn't be confused with this fundamental human quality, which is to put one's trust in some higher being. So that is my first observation. Well, the second point I'd like to raise is a paragraph in the foreword in which Rav Melammed talks about the chapters which he will devote to fortune-telling, skulot, kameot, supernatural powers that certain people claim to have, and so on and so forth. And he says that his discussion of these phenomena, which is sort of positive and tends to accept it as a real feature of our universe, was severely criticized by his colleagues at Yeshivat HaBracha because, one, the opinion that today the Rambam's view that all of these claims are false, period, and there's nothing to any of these charms and magical properties and so forth, and so this shouldn't have the place it has in this book, and two, that because of the way that these certain unscrupulous people exploit the need of certain people, usually people who are in great stress and great health problems, financial issues, family issues, and out of desperation will turn to these miracle workers and so on and so forth. And so this should not be encouraged. Now, Rav Melammed says that he listened to them, and he decided to give a very prominent position to the Rambam's point of view in the book, because he doesn't think that any opinion should be completely ruled out, as he says, in belief as well as in halakha. And in fact, that's an interesting issue on its own. I won't go into it now, but for centuries, from the Talmud and well into the Rishonim, you were ruling out. I mean, the fact that there may be different opinions as to the minimum size of a sukkah or how late you can pray shacharit doesn't the fact that the one opinion is ruled out is not disrespectful. It's not making fun of them. Just you have to make choices in life, and the majority ruled in one way. But he doesn't. He thinks that every position should have its say, and so he will give, as I said, a place of a prominent place to the Rambam's absolute denial of these occult properties, even though he personally tends to accept them. And he says it. He says he does that because he doesn't want anyone to feel uncomfortable with his book, to feel that as if he's doesn't accept something which the rabbis put in the book as part of Jewish belief, that there's something wrong with him. This is interesting. It's a very, I think, good move. It's almost democratic in a certain sense. It's not democratic in the sense that how one makes decisions, but he doesn't want a theology which distances people, which will make certain people feel that I have to be either in or out, and then at this point I'm out, and there's something, and so they don't feel that they feel very uncomfortable. So I thought that was an interesting point. I mean, his approach, the way he frankly discusses the very negative feedback he had from his own colleagues in his yeshiva before he published the book, and the way he tried to do to make his point in a way that would not really distance or otherwise, push away people who felt otherwise. Now, the third point, and I'll just mention it here, after, if I go into this any deeper, it would certainly require a video of its own, has to do with his acceptance of the idea that there is an intrinsic, essential, non-trivial, insurmountable difference between the soul of a Jew and the soul of a non-Jew. This again is something which is totally rejected by the Rambam. Not saying he doesn't reject it because in his day no one had really put it forth. It wasn't something that Jewish thinkers, including people like Halevi, were often accused of holding this type of opinion. No one, as far as I know, in the Rambam's day, felt that there was any difference between the Jewish soul and the soul of a non-Jew. They're human souls. And again, this is the Kuzari's position clearly, where he copies out word for word in his Kuzari one of the theories of this passages from a book on the soul by Ibn Sina, the great Islamic philosopher, theologian, and doctor. But this is something which is almost a fundamental belief among many Jews today, I will say, unfortunately. And I, at any, little meager, insignificant me, in whatever forum I open my mouth, I make clear that I totally reject this idea. But for him, this is clearly fundamental, and as a fact, as I recall, he doesn't introduce it as a controversial point the way he did with occult properties. But so this is something that we'll have to look at later. Anyway, I thought it's very interesting to see that a new codification of Jewish belief has come out by someone who has shown actually great fortitude in going against the tide. For example, in being willing to meet and converse with Reform rabbis, something he took a lot of flack for. And I'm looking forward to progressing in my reading of the book, and maybe we'll put out some more videos as I go along. Thank you for your attention, and you can do the like and subscribe business if you want, and you don't have to if you don't want. Thanks.